Oh wow, we're live.
Welcome to my home.
Yes, welcome to Lauren Lovette's home in New York City. Again, we're with Lauren Lovette, who is one of the best ballerinas of our time and probably the youngest principal in the US or in the world. I don't know, but very successful, great dancer, and we are actually in her home today. And as you all know, and why you tuned in, is we're going to be talking about Petit Allegro with Lauren, who is a great dancer with New York City Ballet. And New York City Ballet is very renowned to be very quick, to be very powerful in their movements. And so we're going to be talking about all these things. But maybe we start first with some of the questions that you, the audience, actually asked Lauren. And so let's start with the first one. And that would be, how do I get my knees straight, feet pointed, and maintain alignment without taking too long in my jumps and getting off the music? How can I get faster without compromising my technique? Really?
Okay. So this is a good question, because I think as dancers, we want our technique to look perfect all the time. And sometimes we can actually prohibit ourselves from moving faster by trying to get everything there, in that perfect way. What I like to do is sort of practice with no technique. That sounds crazy.
Yes.
I like to see how fast I can move without thinking. So, just like if I can go like that with my arm, then I can get there fast with technique too. And then I like to think of one thing at a time. So for me, I think what helps me is if I think of the tips of my toes only. Because if you're thinking about your knee, your ankle, your foot, your toes, your hip, everything, it takes time for your brain to put that into movement. But if I just think of my toe, all of the other muscles in my leg, they start engaging faster. So it's like, so that's kind of nice. And then it helps if you practice at the bar, dégagé fast, tendu fast, because that's the same motion that you need to do a glissade. It's the same thing you need to do a jeté. So if you practice that quickly, you get that same muscle reaction, the fast twitch muscle fibers in your legs to move quickly with Petit Allegro. So, and it's also good to practice maybe it not so perfect a few times, and then you'll start to get better, but just try to do it fast. I mean, maybe when you're alone in the studio, nobody's watching. I don't know.
I think
that helps me. Does that answer your question?
I think so. And I think that's actually great advice, not only great advice in this particular, or with this particular part of technique, but when I talk to Cubans that are very often very good turners, they keep telling me, look, at the beginning, I don't really care about my shape. I just try to find a very slippery ground, and I try to do as many periods as I can. Because then after I'm confident about my general periods, afterwards I can work on being more clean.
It's the exact same thing with turns. You get used to the feeling of turning, just like you get used to the feeling of moving quickly. Or, I mean, when I'm teaching and I'm asking students to move bigger, I'll take them like this and say, how far can you go this way? And they can all do it because we're human beings and you can move that way. But they don't think about doing it in a balanced way. They don't think about using that whole space. They just always do it this way. So I think that's kind of a cool way of thinking about it. Like, test yourself out of the context of ballet and then add a pointed foot.
Sounds good. Sounds very good. And for yourself, I mean, obviously New York City Ballet is very renowned to be very fast. What did you do to build strength, and what did you do to build technique? Did you do stuff besides the actual ballet class?
It's so funny that I'm talking about jumping, because I naturally hate jumping. Not anymore. Now I've grown to love it, but when I was younger, it was not my favorite thing to do at all. I don't know, I'm very loose. My body, all my joints are very loose, so I like moving slowly, and jumping isn't easy when you're very flexible. So I think Pilates helped me a lot. I still do Pilates to this day. If you have a strong center, if you hold everything in your stomach, then it frees up the rest of your body. So a lot of people, ask me how to keep their arms fluid and beautiful. Well, I mean, you have to hold it from here, and then this can be free. So it's kind of isolating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer? Pilates
Yes.
is really good. Also, practicing in socks helps me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, even in a ballet shoe, you can't really feel all your toes. And the spring that you get from literally just from the toes, like that motion when you do a dégagé, is what you use to get off the floor. So I can't really feel that in a point shoe, and I can't really feel that in a flat shoe as easily as I can in socks. So I practice a lot in socks.
Got it.
Don't jump in socks on a bad floor, because you will fall. But
And
hold on.
I think very interesting Pilates you mentioned, and the center work, the core work. We previously discussed all sorts of stuff about ballet and non-ballet, and you mentioned actually that you had a very good Pilates teacher or instructor.
Yeah.
And he kind of pushed down your foot while you tried to walk. Maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Yeah, if you can have a friend do this too. It doesn't have to be a Pilates instructor. I was just lucky that I had a Pilates instructor that did this with me. And it really strengthened my feet a lot. So if you put a point shoe on, a dead one that you don't care about that much, and you hold on to a bar or the wall or a piece of furniture, and you have a friend, actually can, no,
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you can see.
Your foot.
Well, so like I'll demonstrate like this. So if like Matteo held my foot down, like you hold it like that, like that, and you push up like this, all the way up to the top. You can even, it's better if they hold it on both sides like that.
Okay.
And you go up and down. But if you go up and down that way in point shoes, it really, I mean, your calf will be burning after 3, and you get used to it. You get used to using all of the muscles in your feet, because it's so important that you can feel all of the muscles up through your metatarsals, all the ones on the bottom. There are millions, hundreds of muscles in there. I think of them as millions. Like, your feet should be like your hands. You should be able to move them like that, Yeah, TheraBands also help a lot.
And I
That's
think
a good way, like the elastic bands. You can work your feet that way and this way.
And I think a general thing that you mentioned that I think is very interesting, because now it's kind of reoccurring with the different things that you explained. Every time you were kind of saying, look, if you have that kind of strength and you need to do that, it will be very easy because you have that kind of strength.
Yeah.
This is what you explained with the speed now. This is now with the strength.
Yeah.
So you always try to get more strength than you need, so that when what you need is easy for you.
Yeah, I like to do the extreme of everything. So and I mean, I had great teachers that taught me things like that. Like, I would practice just how high can I jump. Like it doesn't have to look good, and it doesn't have to. You don't have to play music or anything. Just see how high you can jump off the floor. And if you keep practicing that, then eventually, when the time comes and you actually take off your jump, you know what it feels like to be in the air and land from a higher place. So I think, maybe I'm an extreme person. It's way more fun. It's way more fun to push yourself that way. And you don't have to do it in class. It's good to do it in class, but you don't have to. You can do it on your own. So,
yeah. I remember we used to do a lot of, yes, please touch your phone. We used to do a lot of stuff that way as well. We always put weights on our ankles, and then we would, and I remember we even had a principal back then in Zurich Ballet, she would do her variations like this.
Wow.
And then she would take them off so that she would feel very easy about the variation, very light, yeah. But yeah, I think, yeah, great people usually have that tendency to want to go very far, so that what they have to do in daily life seems fairly easy to them. And did you do the same in terms of getting speed? You are very fast, even though you say, look, I'm not the fastest. I think for a non-balancing dancer, you are incredibly fast.
Yes.
So yeah, you made it. Did you also, I mean, so if I take the same concept, I would think, do you speed up music sometimes? And then for what you need it for, you slow it down again? Or do you work with that as well? Or is that not how you build speed at all?
I mean, you can build speed that way. I'm so lucky. We always have live music. So, I mean, sometimes it is played faster. I think that's just a good skill to have, to be able to dance at any pace. You never know what you're going to get in a show. At least for me, I've had shows where it's super slow, and if you don't have good technique and a good plie, then you can't do it. I mean, dancing slow, very slow, is just as hard as dancing really fast. So if you can push yourself on both ends, I mean, that's just such a great thing to do. It's a great skill to have. Yeah, New York City Ballet, we dance faster than other companies. It's sort of known that we do. We also do a lot of fast tendus, and you learn that in the school. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, you know, that's kind of bred within us at a very young age. And that just, it's the same. If you practice moving at a quick speed and little steps like that, then you'll have it in your jumps. At least what I said at the beginning was about thinking about your feet isolated from the rest of your body. That helps so much, because I used to think of my body as a whole piece, and if I think of it as a whole piece, it takes way too much time to get what I need to get done. But if I just think of my feet here and my feet there, it's like reaction time in your brain moves faster, because your body's going to go with the flow. I mean, obviously your foot is connected onto your body through the rest of your bones. So you don't have to think about all of the other things, really. If you just think about your foot, everything's going to engage naturally. So it just sort of speeds up in your brain the reaction time of how long it takes to do something.
Got it.
It's mental. Speed is mental. Ballet is mental.
So you are very fast, you have been working on it. Eventually you come to the conclusion, damn it, it's too fast. What's the trade-off? Do you say, I'll try to go for fast anyway? Or do you say, okay, well, I'm not going to win this battle. My foot is not in this variation, my foot is not always going to be pointed, but I'll be making sure that my upper body is still dancing beautifully. Or are you still going for, no, I think about my feet, I think about that aspect.
I mean, I don't like to sacrifice anything. No ballerina wants to be like, it's too fast, I'm not going to point my foot now. You know, that's not really an option. I think when something's really fast, it's actually funny, because if you're more relaxed, you can move faster. So, I mean, I'm always forced to dance faster than I actually want to, and I get tired easily because I like to put energy into everything. And you don't always have to do that. You can just sort of breathe into things and take the edge off within yourself. That's so hard to explain. I don't know how to really put that into words.
I think this is a great point, though. With every athlete who is a top athlete, they say, I relax into it. Even a 100-meter sprinter, Usain Bolt, world record keeper, he says, I need to relax, and then I'm the fastest, and he has to run the fastest. I mean, he's extremely fast. Yeah. So I think there is a lot to it, and I think from the moment.
Just simplify.
Because I think also you're a lot more efficient, right? You're not using the muscles that are at this point not needed.
Yes.
Whereas when you are already going with tension into it, you will be using the opposite muscle of what you actually need
And
as well.
that takes practice. That's why professional dancers can move so much faster. Because when you're in school, you just learn the steps. So you're still figuring out what it takes in your body to do the step. And then that's the only way that you've ever gone about it mentally in your head. You said, okay, well, I put the heel forward and then I stretch it out on my toes on the floor and then I point my foot and then I lift it off. And you're breaking it down so slowly. The goal to get to a professional level is to take all of those thoughts away so that you don't have to even think about it. It just happens. And that's habit. That's because you've done it 1,000 times. So then it comes that much faster. So that saying, practice makes perfect. I guess it's true. Yeah.
And because I think for many people out there, it is interesting, you have been working on looking beautiful all the time. And there's a lot of these people that are still young, they're still starting, and they're trying to figure out how to look their best at all times. Is there certain positions where you say, yeah, when I'm, croisé or effacé or something like this, I try to open a little more or a little less, or is that a stupid question and you don't want to answer it? But generally speaking,
what angle do I look the best in? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like for example, when you
no, I mean for students trying to figure out how to look pretty while dancing.
And especially like in different positions, like if you say, for example, I have a quasi position and I have to do my beats in quasi.
Oh yeah.
Do I try to be a little more quasi or rather a little bit more open? And the same with effacé, for example.
Yeah, it just takes practice. It takes time. See, I don't have to think about. So my life has gotten so much easier because I don't have to think about things like that. Like I know exactly where quasi is, and it's the same every time. It's just the angle that I've discovered for myself that I like and that works, and I know how to get there without thinking. Just like fifth position is just, oh yeah, fifth position. I know exactly where that is. I don't have to think about, I turn out the right foot and then I turn out the left foot and then I put them together. It just happens. So dancing gets simpler as you go. Dancing will never be harder than your first day. I mean, it's true. Like it's so overwhelming at first. So if you're just starting out, it looks crazy. You're like, how are these dancers doing these big flips and these big jumps and all these turns? And I'm here at level 1, and it takes time. You're not at level 6 before you're at level 2 or 5, and it's something that you build on day by day. And of course you know that, but it's hard not to get frustrated when you're like, well, it doesn't look pretty yet. Just like when you start playing piano, it doesn't sound good yet. It takes time for you to learn how to connect notes together and read music. It's the same with dance.
Got it.
Is that answering anything you said?
No, but that's fine. I think it was generally interesting.
I'm sorry.
No, it was, I think the question was so stupid that I was actually lucky you didn't answer the question. So, when you have a blister, now, SP Dancer 23, what do you do when you have a blister, bruised toenail, etc.? Also, any tips on dealing with sore muscles? I think we had that last time around again, but maybe it's interesting just to quickly follow up on this since the question is there.
I get bruised toenails a lot, and they're so painful to dance on. And so what I discovered is that if I put a little bit of glue in my shoe, I don't know, like 2 hours after I've worn it, or just when it's just started to soften to where your foot feels like, oh, this is perfect. Glue it, and then you'll save your toes a lot of pain. Because when my shoe gets too soft is when I bruise my toenails. And then if you already have one, second skin, toe pads, they have like extra padding you can put around it. You can tape them. I always cut mine really short and file them down all the way.
Cool.
Those are just the practical questions of life. Blisters, blister band-aids. Sore muscle, take baths. I do every day. I have to take a bath every day.
Daves, do you have any good ideas on how to keep your bunions from bothering you?
Yes, don't wear too narrow of shoes. Is a big one. I switched to a wider maker, and that helped a lot. I had to wear a toe spacer for a while, but sometimes the toe spacer gets annoying in your shoe, so I'll actually tape my toe out if my bunion's bothering me. Can they see my hands? Can you see my hands?
Yeah.
If you have a piece of tape like this, I'll cut it so that it's in two pieces, and then I wrap one side around my big toe and the other side around my big toe, and then I pull it down and fasten it to the side of my foot so that the toe just sort of separates out a little bit like this.
Mm-hmm.
That helps. It's really hard to it's hard to explain that.
I mean, you can you
I could get really close to the camera with my toe. You don't want to see my feet.
Next question from Sophie Young. Sophie O. Yang. Hopefully, somewhat. What keeps you going when you want to quit? Love you, by the way.
Thank you. Keeps me going when I want to quit. I don't know. Could be something different every time. For me, I take it back to the music most days. I simplify it back down to that. Why am I dancing? I'm dancing because I love music, and yeah, and then that frustration I put it into my dancing, because that's kind of what I do anyways. If I'm happy, I do a dance, because I do like a happy dance. If I'm sad, then what do? I want to do like an adagio and feel depressing. And I don't know. So I think on the days when I feel like giving up, I realize that I can't give up, because that's how I get things out. So if I didn't have dancing, then how would I get all those emotions out? And then it's like a cycle. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's, yeah.
It's really simple. I mean, most people don't dance for their job. Most people dance just for the fun of it. So I still dance. Even if I was an ice cream lady, I'd still dance.
So next one, I think, is a good question as well. I mean, they're all very good questions. Funny enough, just a brief anecdote. We had the discussion about Lauren and what should we do. And as Lauren said, she wouldn't consider herself the best Petit Allegro person.
Definitely not.
Yeah, within the Zarely team, though, we had this discussion. So what is a live stream that we should do with Lauren? And the team said was absolutely clear Petit Allegro is one of her strengths. But then they were also absolutely clear that being a lyrical dancer is your strength. And so in the end, I was a little confused about what we should talk, because apparently you can do everything. And I would agree from what I've seen. So any tips on using your arms in that context? My teacher is always telling me to feel free, to feel my arms, yet they're still very loose and all over the place. Thanks. And that was, by the way, another discussion that we had, that you have very beautiful arms. So maybe you can just kind of take us through that a little bit.
How to use your arms if they're loose, like flying around? I don't know. I like to think of it as coming from my back. You know, I'm sure your teachers have told you that before, like use your arms from your back. But what that really means is, I don't know, that like when you engage the back, like between your shoulder blades, something changes in the front. Like there's a muscle in the front that you can feel of your arm. So that like automatically puts that in the right place so that the bottom of your arm can move freely. And then the same thing that I do with my feet, I do with my arms. So like instead of thinking of my whole arm all the time, because it takes a lot of time, I just think of my hands. And that gets my arm where I want it to go faster, and the rest of it follows because it knows what to do. So if I hold my back and then move my hand, then the rest sort of just happens. So if I'm the hardest time to move your arms, at least in my opinion, is when you're moving quickly. Because when you're moving fast, it's easy to like have these wooden things happen. But if I'm holding my back and just thinking of my feet and my hands, usually the rest of my body will go along for the ride.
Mm.
And then you can move quickly and still look pretty.
Very good.
I mean, that's how I think of it. I isolate my hands.
No, that's very interesting. I'm just the sidekick here. Okay. I'm just your terrible assistant. So Amanda Mutran Robbery, I have a question for Lauren. I'd like to know how I can improve batteries and Petit Allegros. And then she apologized because she says, well, actually, this whole thing was about Petit Allegro. But maybe you could talk a little more about batteries.
Is that like beats?
Yes.
Okay. How to improve beats? Beats are hard. Oh, it all sounds the same. Maybe this is my trick for everything. I don't know. I really think about just my feet. I mean, that probably sounds crazy, but if I hated entrelacs, I couldn't do it for the longest time. I used to, because I thought of my thighs or my knees crossing, and I could never get my legs around fast enough to get 3 beats in the air. And I would practice at the bar all the time. I'd lift myself up and I'd beat my legs, and it was so frustrating for me. But as soon as I thought of just my feet and beating on the way up, like starting it right away and just moving my feet, that I got my entrelacs.
Okay,
that was like
Jones
the greatest
is
feeling.
by the way right now.
Oh no.
You want to pick it up?
No. Okay.
Okay, then the next one is. Unless you want to
talk about that more.
More? Well, if not, we move on. We have more questions.
I also think about this sounds kind of crazy, but I also think about like jumping down a little bit. So if I'm going up, I'll jump down to spring up faster. Because if I do a slow plie preparation, I'm probably going to go slow up. And it sort of tricks my brain into moving faster. So I'll jump down, and then it sort of lights a little fire under my feet.
I think, but that's, I think, an interesting point, really, because this plyometrics is the whole physiological aspects of jumping. So they have been researching a lot and stuff. And they said that the best jumpers, like Michael Jordan, basketball player, right? He's not actually pushing, and he doesn't have big legs. He's not actually pushing and from his muscles that much, as much as he's just but every muscle in his leg is just stretching out until it's like a spring that pops back up. And basically, that's what you said, and I think everybody has to experiment with that for themselves, because somebody with tighter muscles will have a different timing than somebody with longer muscles, and somebody that's very loose has a different timing than somebody that's very tight, because just the muscle spring is different, right?
Also, this is very good, or at least something that I learned along the way. If I'm thinking of traveling, or if I'm thinking of my energy as going this way, like wide, taking up a lot of space, I don't get the same reaction time, and I also can't jump as precisely or as fast as I want to. So if you keep your legs more underneath you, you can hands down jump so much better than you could before, and higher. So that's what I'm doing when I jump down fast before I do beats in the air. I'm condensing all my energy in instead of taking it out, because if it's out, it's already away from you, and you've got to collect it all, and that takes time. So if you keep everything underneath you, springing down, it's locked in, and then it just goes up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Could you show us a manege?
No.
So
it's my day off.
Oh, just one manege. I didn't ask for a lot. Raquel Vicente from Portugal is asking Zarely where, and hi Lauren, what gives you strength when something goes wrong? Love from Portugal.
Strength when something goes wrong in my life.
Let's say live and also let's say just on stage. Let's take both aspects.
I think dancing. When something goes wrong, strength when something goes wrong. Oh, it's so hard because when something goes wrong, when you're dancing, it's all you can think about, and it's hard to keep going with the show or with class or anything. So I think getting used to living in the moment is really important. You have to get used to messing up and then laughing it off and saying, oh, I messed up, and then moving right on to the next thing. Because if you absorb things too much as a dancer, I don't know, that can be sort of against you because it sort of ruins the rest of your day. Yeah, so I try to practice being in the moment, because then if something goes wrong in the moment, it's easily forgotten, because then something good can happen in the next moment, and you're living your life from moment to moment to moment. But if you sort of live in the past or in the future, what's going to happen, it's really hard. You really have no control over either of those things. So yeah, I guess that's my philosophy for life too.
Yeah.
You just live in the here and now. A lot of dancers talk to me about like their future goals, where they want to be later. You know, what summer program should I go to? What company am I going to get into? And all those things are good to have. You should have dreams, but dwelling on all the stuff that you're gonna do one day really doesn't help you get there any faster. It's really what you do today that's gonna help you get there, and not just today, like right now. So yeah, I just think about right now all the time. That's really good. Yeah. It keeps you happier too. People always ask me why I'm so positive all the time. Why are you so happy? I'm not always happy. Like sometimes I get really upset and really sad, but that's when something bad has happened. You know, I don't sit around in most of my day thinking about something bad that happened in the past. You know, it was the past. Or something I'm nervous about in the future. That's future Lauren's problem. But if I just think about right now and how I can improve that moment right now, then it keeps me happy.
Very, very good advice.
Simplify is what we should have called this talk. Simplify.
Nonetheless, I think you guys got a lot of good advice about Petit Allegro as well. And for all of those that tune in the first time, who are we? Who is Zarely? We're not actually a broadcasting station, a low-cost broadcasting station for ballet. We are actually a tights manufacturer, and our aim was, how can you advance the technology of tights? I was a dancer some time ago, and we were thinking about this, and I pulled in all my friends from back then, and we had 300 dancers actually doing a survey about what they would like to have improved with tights. And then we created a real high technology tight system, so to speak. So for the rehearsal, we said there's different aspects that need to be tackled than for the performance. And last but not least, for the recovery. So those are different aspects that need different tights. And surprise, surprise, you're wearing one of those, which is a Z1. Exactly. And we said there's two aspects actually, and I think especially with the black one, you might first think like, what is this black thing on here? But if Lauren like would go this way with the leg, like to the side, what we try to do is you see this is lighter and this is darker. So not only does she have more support in this area, and also when you pull it down in this area, but also it highlights the hyperextension in the leg. And I think this is something that everybody wants. So we were working on all these different aspects for dancers. Check those tights out. I think they're worth it, obviously. And I think they will make your life easier. They will make you better dancers because you recover faster and you have more support while working, and you look better in the end. So we are very proud of them. We are very convinced of them. And we hope you will be too, and we hope you really enjoyed this live stream with not only one of the best dancers, but also one of the smartest dancers that I've ever talked to. And we wish you a wonderful day still.
Have a good day.
Yes, and goodbye.
Bye.